This week we will begin a 2-week project on creating an infographic, and I want you to work 3 tutorials this week. I'm going to try my best to keep them short for you. These are going to explain how to use 2 functions in After Effects primarily, and that is the animate function for text and also the trim paths function for shapes. So here's what we're going to be creating. Now here's just a simple bar graph. It's not complete, only included one set of numbers. There's no headline or anything like that. I actually have one that's finished here for you. Where is it? Right there. So let's look at this one. So you can see we've got a headline, we've got 3 sets of numbers that are animating, and we also have some little icons that are being used as little cutouts for these colors. And this is one of the things that I want you to include when you're building your infographics. You do not have to create a chart or a graph. Many infographics do not have any kind of charts, graphs, and so forth with them. But the purpose here today is to introduce you to these 2 functions, animate for text and trim paths for shapes. So let's go ahead and create our own version. We're going to go up to composition, new composition, or we'll use the new composition icon, and we'll name this bar chart 2, and make sure you're using the HDTV 1080 29.97 preset, and let's make it 5 seconds long, and we'll click OK. Next thing I want you to do is go to the top to Window, Extensions, Adobe Color Themes. And Adobe Color Themes for you will probably open in a little box that's kind of floating on top of everything else. I have mine over here, but what you can do, I'd like for you to do, is to put it in this list of little tabs or whatever on this side. So when you drag it over, just make sure you see that solid blue, purplish rectangle, and you see sort of a little frame around the edges. And just let go, and we'll take Adobe Color Themes and we'll drag it up to, I like to put it in the second one, and then you can click down on it to see what it looks like. And it looks crazy, and by the way, it takes forever to load the first time, so just have patience. Once it's loaded one time, it loads pretty quickly. But we're just going to drag down to give this a little room here, and then we'll go to Explore. And we're going to use the search function here and search for Rosa y Azul. Rosa y Azul. And what I didn't realize when I created this was that there's a whole bunch of Rosa y Azuls in here. And we're going to go try to find the right one. There's a lot of interesting ones in here. Let's use this one right here. It's got a tan color on the left and 2 different shades of aqua, or whatever you want to call that, on the right. Now let's go ahead and create a new solid. Right click, new solid, and we'll use the eyedropper and go click on top of the darkest color, the one on the far right. We'll name this, as always, BG background. Click OK. Now we need to click in the gray down here to deselect this layer. It's very important that you deselect. The reason is we're going to use the pen tool next. If we try to do something with the pen tool while this layer is chosen, we're going to create a mask. We don't want a mask, we want a shape layer. So what I want you to do is go get the pen tool. Let's set the fill color to nothing. In order to do that, you click on the word fill, click on the little rectangle with the red slash, and then we'll go to stroke and set it to 150 pixels, and the color, we'll grab the eyedropper and go drop over the lighter color of blue. And now somewhere around the middle of the screen, about 150 pixels from the bottom, we're going to click one time and then hold shift and go about to the upper third, more or less, something like that. And you'll see we create a bar. Now it's important that you click at the bottom first, and I'll show you why in a minute, but it's bottom then top. Okay, now we're going to go to align, and I want you to choose align horizontally, and that'll jump it to the center. Now in the timeline, click on the word shape layer 1 here, enter, and let's rename it bar 167%. Now we're going to go get the selection tool, and we're just going to move it over. We're going to count here. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 for me. It might be different for you depending on how big of a screen you have, how close you're zoomed in or far out you're zoomed in. I recommend that pretty much always you're going to want to see gray around the edges, just to make sure that if you've got it all the way in here like this, you really don't know where you are on the screen. So you need to see a little gray around the edges. Okay, so remember the number of times that you tapped it to go to the left, because we're going to create another bar and go back to the right. Okay, but first we're going to go to the top to add right here. Add trim paths. Now you can see trim paths over here in the timeline. We're going to twirl down where it says trim paths. Let's go to 1 second in the timeline, and we're going to set a keyframe for end. And now this is where it becomes important that you started at the bottom. Watch what happens when we drag this end function back and forth. If we go to 0, it just disappears at the bottom. This is what we're going to animate. We're going to start at 0 and we're going to build it up here. So take it all the way to 0 and click the stopwatch for end. Make sure you're at 1 second. Then we'll jump over to 2 seconds in the timeline. You can type it in over here if you like, but we're going to set this to 67%. What do you know? 67. We'll hit enter, and now you can see the bar is going to grow for us. Now we need to easy ease both of these keyframes, so you can either draw a box around them like this, or you can click on the word end over here, and that will select them for you. And so we'll easy ease. We're going to right click, keyframe assistant, easy ease. You should be well used to this by now. Now we'll twirl this layer up, so press the U key once, and then you can see, well, we still see the keyframes here, so press it again. Now we'll duplicate this layer, Control or Command D to duplicate. Let's go ahead and rename it bar 2 14%. And we're still parked over the 2 second mark. Let's set end to 14. Now let's move this over like we did before. So we're going to go up here and get the selection tool if you don't have it already. And let's twirl this up too while we're at it. And let's grab this guy and start moving it over. 10 times is how far I had to move mine, holding the shift key. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And I want to rename the stroke color. So let me go back over here to Adobe Color Themes. And up at the top, we'll click on the stroke color and use the eyedropper. I'm going to go get the pink color. And I'm going to click OK. Now we'll duplicate this layer again, Control or Command D. We will rename it bar 3 19%. Hit enter. And we will move this guy over to the right now. So we're going to hold shift and move it over 10. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10. And let's set the color to something else. Click on that. And maybe this time we'll use the tan color. There we go. Maybe that, I don't know if they're the same or not, but I'm going to go with the bottom one because I kind of like this little sort of peachy color there we'll use. Okay, so there's our 3 bars. Now we're going to work on animating the text. Now there's several different ways that we can do this. I'm going to use the one that I think that is the easiest. First we're going to create a new solid, layer new solid, or you can right click on the timeline and we'll make it 90% white. Really doesn't matter, but it's just a good habit to get into. 90% brightness. We're going to name it bar 1 text. And we'll click OK. We're going to go over to Effects and Presets, and we're going to search for number. And there we have under text, numbers. And we'll drag it onto our bar 1 text layer. Let's set the font to Trebuchet Bold. Where's Trebuchet? On this computer it's called Trebuchet MS. The reason we're using Trebuchet is that both Mac and PC have them. I want you to change this to bold. So Trebuchet Bold. And we're going to set the alignment to right. We'll click OK. And now we have some little tiny red type over here on the screen. We're going to change that over here under Effect Controls. So let's start with the fill color. We're going to set the fill color to 90% white. Make sure that saturation is 0. And we'll click OK there. And we're going to set the decimal places to 0. And we'll set the size to 100. And there we can see our text. So let's just grab that and move it over here somewhere about like so. Okay, so we're going to need a lot of room here. So we're going to push this way up. Okay. Now what I want you to do is to select the bar 1 67% layer and press U so we can see the keyframes. Now we'll go back to the bar 1 text layer and we're looking for the value function here. Now I want you to hold the Alt on a PC or Option on a Mac, Alt or Option, and click on the stopwatch. Now that's going to set off a whole crazy bunch of stuff that's happening. What we're doing is we're adding an expression. I want you to look next to this value function here. The numbers are in red, and I want you to take the little spiral icon. This is called the pick whip. I know you know what it is by now. And we're going to drag it down to this word end and let go. Now, if your keyboard has a number pad, you can hit the Enter key. If it doesn't, you're just going to have to go somewhere and click away. Now, this sets the expression for us. We don't need to see it anymore, so we'll just twirl that up. And now we can see, we'll drag this back down so we can see what's going on. Now we can see that as the bar grows, so does the text. Now let's go ahead and bring this bar 1 text down so that it's grouped with our bar 1 down at the bottom. And for this bar 1 text layer, let's shorten the end of this, the left edge. We're just going to grab hold of, you can see there's a double arrow there. We're just going to move that over so that it starts when this first keyframe starts. So as we play through this, as we scrub, nothing happens, and then it starts. Okay, that way you just don't have a 0 sitting there, right? You don't just have a 0 sitting there with nothing on the screen. It's a little lonely looking. Okay, so that grows up and we're good to go. Now we need to add to this a little percentage sign. So let's go get our text tool. We'll go to the font Trebuchet, and again here it is MS. We'll make it bold, And again, we'll make sure that it is that 90% white color. And we're just going to click right down here somewhere, and we'll type the percentage symbol. I'm going to go get the move tool, and I'll move this into its relative position, and I need to make it bigger. Let's make it 80. And now it's a little bit big for everything we've got going on, but that's okay. Let's go ahead and select both it and the bar 1 text, and we'll just nudge those until they are into position for us. We're trying to center those over the top of the bar, and we're going to leave a little space here for that. I'm going to go ahead and click away and then click back on this percentage sign here, and I'm going to shorten that also so that it starts at the same moment. Okay, that's it for this one. Again, if you would like to look at my version of it, there it is, and you can see again that I have added some stuff. I've got a headline here, I've added these little icons, I've got the bars labeled. And so this is the kind of thing that I want to see in your infographic if you do a chart.